My job here is to help reduce suffering, not take it away, because that's not going to happen. It's called work for a reason, right? There's going to be stuff that you love doing, you don't love doing. But at the end of the day, at the end of the week, if you've suffered less and thrived more, that's a win.
Hello, and welcome to the PSI Podcast, a podcast for you to explore where a life lived with purpose meets transformation. Each week, we will bring you powerful insights, inspiring stories, and real-world tools for you to break through your limitations, unlock your potential, and live the life you are meant to. I'm your host, Tim Bowen.
And I am your co-host, Mackenzie O'Kelly. For more than 50 years, PSI Seminars and PSI World have helped thousands of people create the life they deserve to live. And now, it's your turn.
All right, so welcome back to the PSI Podcast. My name's Tim, I'm joined by Mackenzie. We are your co-hosts for this extravaganza called the PSI Seminars Podcast, joined by our guest speaker, Mr. Carson Johns. So this is episode 2 in our series called Mastering Magnetism. If you haven't heard episode 1 or watched episode 1 yet, be sure to go back and then come back. We'll still be here. And so we're joined again by Carson Johns, who on episode 1 talked to us about energy and vitality and how energy is contagious. So we want to continue this conversation, getting into the second pillar of mastering magnetism on clarity and conviction.
Awesome. Thanks for having me again. So just a real quick recap for those of you who need it or want it. We talked about 4 pillars of magnetism. Magnetism to us is not about attractiveness as far as like what you look like, but attractiveness is your ability to draw folks in. And so we talk about 4 pillars. The first one is energy. Second is clarity, conviction, connection, and then consistency. And so we're going to be doing an episode of each. So when we talk about clarity and conviction, what we talk about is clarity and conviction about who you are and what you stand for. I think that it's something that it's not necessarily spoken all the time, but when people come in and they're clear about themselves, about what they bring to the party, they're clear about their strengths, their weaknesses, what they can add, what they can't add. I know that for me, there's been a lot of work of my life around really recognizing what are my strengths, and then not even really worrying about the weaknesses part. And that doesn't mean I can just go be really good at 2 things, then everything else be horrible at, or be a horrible person in the other parts of my life.
A little balance is nice.
Yeah. But I mean, I know what I bring to the party. I know what my strengths are, what I'm energized by, and what I can add. And when I go into rooms, in my current career, there's a ton of stuff that I can't help with, but I know that I can help with something. And one of the things, we didn't talk about it too much, but one of the things that when people ask me what I do, networking events or meet new people, I say, basically what I do is I help reduce suffering at work. And people go, I need some of that. I like that.
That's a good hook right there.
Yeah, and it's like, that's true. And I say that in the beginning of all of my trainings. It's like, my job here is to help reduce suffering, not take it away, because that's not going to happen. It's called, my dad always said, it's called work for a reason, right? There's going to be stuff that you love doing, you don't love doing. But at the end of the day, at the end of the week, if you've suffered less and thrived more, that's a win. I mean, if you haven't looked out into the world, there's a lot of suffering around there. And so when I chose sort of this passion and this purpose, I really looked at I can't end child poverty or world hunger or whatever, but I can help reduce suffering at work. There's, everybody pretty much everybody has a job, and most of those people are suffering more than they're thriving. And so my purpose, my clarity and conviction is I can help reduce suffering on the planet. I choose to do it in corporations and nonprofits and all over the place. But that's a clarity of purpose for me. And if you've ever watched the Start With Why, Simon Sinek, people don't really care what you do. Because I could say, I do leadership development training and coaching around communication and team building and leadership in corporations around the world. Well, great. There's 150,000 people that do that all over the country, probably more. But when I say I do it because I help reduce suffering, people go, that's really cool. That's really great. And I know that I do that. It's not like I'm pretending or I'm bragging or I'm hoping that I do that. I know that I do that. And so I think this idea, sorry, Tim.
I just want to say, like, how did you land on that, right? Like, did you know from day one when you were going out on your own and you were going to start your consulting business and be this worldwide speaker, that was your purpose? How'd you get there?
That's another good one. I always tell people don't ever answer a question with that's a good question, but here I am doing it. Okay. The answer to that question is I probably figured that out about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'll tell you that story. So I can see this through line throughout my entire life, meaning that I think that has always been a part of me around helping people and wanting to make sure that people feel good around me. I think it's probably, have you ever heard the term blurse?
No. Blurs?
Oh.
Yeah, a blessing and a curse.
Oh, okay. I'm there.
Important version of it.
Come on. So I think that all human traits are both a blessing and can be both a blessing and a curse. They can be hindering, they can be helpful. So one of my blurses is I like people and I want to help and I want people to feel good around me and good in general. That can go overboard, right? Or it can be like, wow, I didn't really want you to like me that much. You know what I'm saying? Like it can be a curse. It could be around not being able to give feedback or have conflict. So again, I'll say that through line of I want people to feel good around me. And it's not really like me, it's feel good around me. And in the world in general. So that's been there for a long time. But when I first started doing what I was doing post-PSI seminars, you know, I'd gone through a long period at PSI seminars, learned a lot, but just needed to do something different. And not totally different, but I felt like, I mean, you guys both know, you feel like you grow up in PSI seminars, right? And I was like, I need to flap my wings and see if I can go do other stuff. And at first I was just doing whatever I could do to make a paycheck, right? I was like, what? You want me to do what? On what? On what topic? Sure, yeah, I can do that. Presentation skills? Gotcha. Team building? Gotcha. Whatever. Like it was just sort of like I was out there building my business and sort of trying to figure out what I am best at. And I was with a couple colleagues and we were at a big client site doing a large convention. And one of the participants came up and he goes, what do you guys say that you do? And my colleague next to me, who's this a tall ex-lawyer, very conservative, sort of subtle, serious guy, he was like getting up to leave and he picks his tray up or picks his plate up and he turns around and goes, reduce suffering. And then he walks away. I was like, that is totally what we do.
Wow.
And I have been saying it ever since. And I think that it is, for me, it resonates. And I think that the question for anybody is not what you do, but people follow and they get on, they buy into why you do it.
And it evolves over time, right? Like, it's not like if you were asked me right now, hey, why do you work in IT and virtual events for PSI seminars? I'd be like, well, I love the company. I love making an impact, but that's not like a why. Like it's really more of a searching process that's going to evolve over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I love, Carson, the conviction of like what you have to offer and like the clarity. So like my biggest example of this is, so I got my minor at UCLA for film, TV, and digital media. LA was not for me. So just the whole film scene, like, nope. So I moved back to Orange County, and instead of just like seeing what was available as far as job openings on, I don't even remember how I looked back then, but
the newspaper.
Yellow page. I don't know. I was just like, wait, how did I even look? I don't know. But instead of just like, well, what's available, let me pick one, I had like such a conviction that I knew that I would be great at this. And so I Googled for production companies in my area and I reached out to them. And so this one that I've worked with, so I graduated in 2013. I've worked with them since 2014, on and off still. And I called them and I said, hi, I would love an interview. And they said, we don't have a posting. I said, no, I know that, but please let me come. And they're like, ma'am, I don't know how you heard about us, like, or anything. we're not hiring, like there's not a position to fill. And I said, great, when can I come in? Like, I just had this conviction that I had something to give. And like in the finally they said yes, probably to get me to shut up or something. But I came in and I was so clear that I am fresh out of school. I know nothing. And I'm clear of that. So like, what do you have to offer? I have zero to offer you. I'm pretty sure, like technical wise. However, I am clear that I am very easy to teach. I will learn. I will study. I will put me in any job. I will get coffee. I will like whatever it may be. Like, I know that I will make your job easier. And I got hired on the spot when they had nothing. And so like, just that like conviction and that energy of just like, I know that I don't know, but I can learn. Like, so yeah, no, I think that's crucial.
Well, and I think that oftentimes, we've been told not to talk about ourselves, not to brag about ourselves, not to be humble, not to be humble, but to be humble, which I think are all valid and good things to think about. However, if you're not able to talk about yourself and the impact that you make on the world, on people, on dogs, cats, whatever, on the earth, like if you're not able to talk about the impact that you make, people don't know what to call you for. People don't know what to do with you. And, there's a quote or just like an idea around, that when somebody knows your purpose, they know how to follow you, right? And so they know what to expect from you. I think, which is another thing that's super important, is like people don't call me to do IT, Tim, right? Even though, and back to Mac, for you as well, you all know, like I started in, AV and, media and all of that technology. And so part of that is all the cables and the cords and how they go together and da-da-da.
We still use some of your videos, some of your Principia videos.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I was going to say, I remember you at the pavilion in your little IT room.
Yep.
So what's in there?
Yep. So, but people don't call me for that anymore, right? And so they used to, and I think to your point, Tim, like it does change over time. And I think that to be able to articulate what it is that you do, who do you do that to, and for what reason? On the workshop we get a little framework around powerful introductions. And the framework's real easy. It's I help blank do blank so that they blank, right? I help. Who do I help? What's my audience? What do I help them do? And then what is the impact of them doing that? And so when I help blank do blank so that they blank, and you can introduce yourself that way, and you can say, and I'm really passionate about, and then tell a story about how you've done it. And it's true. You can't be a lie.
Has to be true. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah. Or at least mostly true, Then people go, oh, wow, that's, they see you in your mind as not just a person or a 2-inch square or, an IT professional or whatever. Not that those are all anything wrong with that, but they see you as a person who makes a difference, a person who adds value. And again, just being clear about that is, I think, a super important part.
What do you think? So I love that kind of mechanism there. So say it again. So it's like I help blank do blank so they become blank. Is that
so that they blank, whatever that is? So
okay.
I could play it. I'll give you an example. Like I help leaders in big organizations increase their emotional intelligence, communication skills, and mindsets so that they create spaces where their people can thrive.
Love it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like a one-liner brand statement.
Yeah. And really selling ourselves. And, you're talking about it being real, being genuine, being truthful. Totally agree. I think, that's people are going to read through the BS. They're going to see, like, if it's not genuine for us. But what would you say in kind of around, like we hear so often, like fake it till you make it, or act as, what is it? Act as though it is so it becomes so, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I think there's two things to think about that. One is a mindset and more of an I am statement of like, I'm going to walk and live in this person that I'm hoping to be. And by the way, we are all doing, I mean, I don't know that we're all doing that, but I don't know that anyone's like, well, I've made it. Here I am. perfect specimen of a human being. I've mastered magnetism or whatever else, fill in the blank. Nobody's done that. So I think we're all kind of faking it till we make it to some degree. But the more you go, oh, wow, I can do that. Oh, well, I do that. Oh, well, I do have that. Or I can be that, do that, have that. The more it becomes real. So I don't know that if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I want to be a, brain surgeon, and you've never been to medical school, that you walk in and go, oh, I help people, have brain surgery so that they don't have epilepsy anymore. And someone goes, oh, my kid had epilepsy. Why don't you do brain surgery on my kid? Maybe it's a horrible example, but you know what I'm saying. I think that there's a balance between, there's a balance between fake till you make it and being totally an imposter.
Well, and I think like how what you just said reminds me of like kind of stacking evidence. Mm-hmm. Like even like the little things like, oh, actually I was charismatic or whatever you're working towards. Like even in that moment at the grocery store talking to the cashier. Yeah. Okay, like that's evidence. And then one thing, and then it becomes like, oh, it is not faking. It is me. It's just becomes smaller to bigger.
Yeah. And we've talked about this throughout the years in PSI Seminars. It's like you can do the inside out and you can do the outside in. So if I have a belief that says, I'm not smart enough, and then the thought that comes in is like, I'm going to fail this test. And then the fear and the anxiety comes in with the feelings of that. And then you go and you fail the test, right? Well, now if I shift the belief from the inside out, I am smart enough. And then the thought becomes, I think I might be able to do that. And the feeling becomes more confident and you ace the test. That's the inside out, changing from a belief system. But to your point, and Tim, if you also let's go get some coaching. And you go, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to study these math problems and you're going to do these, whatever reps on the thing. And you go and you actually ace the math test. That helps you to instill the confidence, which instills the thought of I can and I am, which then instills the belief that you can and you are. And so the action, the behavior change is also a way to shift it from the inside.
Yeah, it's just that continuous evolution of our why. Right. Yeah. It's just so many different avenues of getting there. Cool. So clarity and conviction, pillar 2.
So I'll leave you with a couple of things. One is, here's a question to ask. So if somebody asks me, as somebody asks you what you stand for, and could you say it in 20 seconds without listing your job? If somebody asks you, what do you do? What will you say to them? Are you going to say, why? Am I an IT professional, or what is it you really do? And if you could state that in 20 seconds, people are going to be more drawn to you. You're going to be more attractive.
I've practiced that over the years because my title with PSI Seminars doesn't necessarily align perfectly with the work.
We all need bullet points.
Well, yeah, and Tim, you've done 1,000 things. Well, it's funny. It's like everybody's job title doesn't tell you what they do. Unless it's like, I'm a plumber, and then you go, okay, I know what a plumber is, right? So most job titles don't really explain what you do or the difference you make or the people that you touch. And so, I just think it's a valuable thing to be able to speak about yourself and the impact that you have on the world, the planet, other people, dogs, cats, whatever it is.
Yeah, so it's like working on all of our little mini elevator pitches for ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Carson. Thank you, Mackenzie, as always.
Thank you, Tim.
Be sure to tune back in for episode 3 on Mastering Magnetism, where Carson is going to fill us in on the 3rd pillar of Mastering Magnetism on connection and curiosity.
Thank you for joining us today for the PSI Podcast.
If today's conversation sparks something for you, don't let it stop here. Share this episode with someone who's ready for their next breakthrough, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an opportunity to grow. I'm Tim Bowen.
And I'm Mackenzie O'Kelly. Until next time.